Guys, and welcome to another one of my Chelsea videos. Today I'm doing it off a slightly different interface, but do let me know what you think of this new sort of format. I'm doing it off my laptop, and I'm going to be talking today about the Chelsea ownership crisis, Jim Ratcliffe, and profiling what I think is going to happen. So, first up, I'm going to talk about sort of why there's been stories of Roman selling Chelsea Football Club. I'll then talk about Jim Ratcliffe, who's been linked with buying Chelsea, and what I think is going to happen. So first up, Roman has been linked with selling Chelsea since the crisis of Sergei Skripal between the UK and Russia last year. Basically, it was we think in the UK, a Russian coordinated attack on two spies who were operating in Salisbury. While, like, the evidence, I don't want to go into specifics, the UK government's taken strict action on Russian oligarchs, and Roman's British citizenship's been revoked, and he can only come, I think, 100 days a year on an Israeli passport. So that sort of annoyed him, and then he's withdrawn funding for the new stadium plans, and also he's sort of, people say, have taken a back seat because he's not been to a game this season, and he's also, people have made the comment that he's not, the transfer business perhaps has lacked ambition. I think that's a bit harsh, but he's definitely taking a backseat role to someone like Marina Granovskaya. So there have been lots of stories almost since this crisis talking about a man called Jim Ratcliffe, who's been linked with, I believe, a £2.5 billion bid for Chelsea. A huge amount of money, but for the assets and size of the club, probably quite reasonable. And Jim Ratcliffe is Britain's richest man. He's from Manchester, born, I think, on the outskirts of that area in a council house. Made his money at a pharmaceutical firm called Ineos. He was a director there, and he's now worth a whopping 21 billion. So to put that into perspective, Roman was one of the richest in the world. He's worth 9.3 billion pounds. This is, guys. So Jim Ratcliffe has over double the net worth that Roman has. And I know I've seen a lot of stories say they're worried about, Ratcliffe for the fact that maybe he will lack interest, he won't invest despite having the ability and muscle to do so. Personally, I think that's an interesting point. I'll address it later. But he bought Team Sky yesterday, the cycling team, and he's renaming it Team Ineos. He's wanting to sort of make a presence in the world of sport, I believe. And I think it's clear that Ratcliffe basically is, he's definitely interested in Chelsea. I was going to say he's had a season ticket with the Blues for, I think, about 5 years at Stamford Bridge, which was gifted to him by Roman. And he's been wanting to invest. People have said, yeah, he's a Man United fan, self-confessed United fan. But, I mean, so is Peter Kenyon at Chelsea. I don't think that matters. I think it's going to be his entity, his project. And I've made the point before to some people over Twitter and stuff. When you run a football club of this size, it's unlikely you yourself is going to make money. And I think Ratcliffe, on the question of investment in the club, I think if he buys a club, he's going to invest. It'll be another era like the start of Roman. I mean, Ratcliffe has said, apparently to the press, Chelsea only have 2 world-class players, Hazard and Conte, and we can't expect to compete with just those 2, which is really interesting, suggesting obviously he would invest. Would he be owner? And the fact is that he's got so much money that the 2.5 billion he's bidding isn't really a drop in the water for him. The stories suggest, I believe, across the British press, Roman is asking for 4.5 billion. So there's a bit of, there's a clear daylight between those offers, let's say. And Ratcliffe isn't best pleased with that. He's not paying anywhere near that. But I think if Ratcliffe ups his bid to 3.5 billion, there's definitely a chance that Roman would sell up for that price. But I'm going to give my opinion on whether I think it can and will happen. I think for that price it would happen, but I don't think it would happen to Jim Ratcliffe. After the whole diplomatic crisis with the Skripals, I think Roman would not be seen dead selling the Blues to Britain's richest man. It would almost be like handing one of our sort of chunks of gold in the UK back to an Englishman that was owned obviously by Roman Abramovich. And I think if he were to sell up, which I think is very much a possibility, I think he would sell probably to another overseas backer. Probably, there have been lots of reports about a sheikh wanting to buy one of these Saudi, I think, princes worth, I think, 18 billion. So still way more than Roman, but not as much as Jim Ratcliffe, which is interesting. I think that's far more likely to happen on the basis of like the international sort of political dimension of it, which is very interesting. But if it were up to me, and if I had the choice of Ratcliffe or Roman, with all respect to Roman, I think he's been amazing in his opening years. I think it's wilted away a bit since 2012. I think the Champions League was his main objective. I would take Ratcliffe. I think, for the reasons I said earlier, I think he would invest in our club. I think it would be a priority of his to invest. I think he would clean up the act with the players and stuff. I think a new start would also attract managers, top players that we're changing. We're not short-termist. We are going to be back in the Champions League regularly, which I think is very important, given that we've not been in the Champions League now 2 of the last 3 years, not got past the round of 16 since 2014. We need to almost re-establish ourselves. And if Roman is willing to do it, I back Roman, but I can't see him doing it while the stadium plans are on hold. He's out of the country. He's not going to games. And I think Jim Ratcliffe, with British backing, would be a great guy to do it. And I think he would be very popular amongst the fans after sort of with a few 100 million backing. Yes, he's a United fan, but money talks. And if he backs us, makes us into a heavyweight, I think he'd be the most popular man in London. That's for sure. Obviously, with Arsenal, Tottenham and a top 6 improving, we're showing in the last few seasons our club needs more investment. I think we will get it under him, which is great. And I think we'll just have a different outlook. I loved the short-termist nature of the club for a while. You know, when we had a top dressing room, I don't think it's right anymore. And maybe Ratcliffe, just the whole philosophy will change. And I think that's fantastic. I think we need it more than anything. But Roman can do that. So if Roman does, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to turn him down. You know, he has paid a world record fee for a goalkeeper. So he's not completely switching off. I'd be the first to admit that. I just think his general interest is sort of whittling down a bit. But as I say, I can't sadly see it happening. I just can't, I'm afraid. But if it does, I'll be very happy. And this was another sort of more in-depth video about Chelsea and the situation with our board. I've had a lot of this on Twitter. I thought I'd clear it up in a video conveniently during the international break. Do enjoy. The subscribes and the support for the last video on Sarri has been amazing, guys. Do subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll put the link to the Sarri video below, why I'm Sarri in, and I think we need to give him time. But honestly, your support getting us to 100 subs has been incredible, and we'll keep doing this as long as you guys keep wanting the content. So like, comment, subscribe. We respond to all interactions, seriously. And thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I've been Tom, up the Chelsea, up England during the international break, and see you guys all very soon.